Anita here and welcome to another video. Today we are creating a series of little illustrations that combined will create something new because today I'm again creating purely with Redbubble in mind. I'm a little bit obsessed with the idea of having my artwork on things, and so one of my biggest, well, I wouldn't say biggest, but one of my big dreams, kind of like things I wanted to try, was to create a pattern, because I really don't like repetitive patterns, especially when you can see the repetition. So this is kind of sort of my take on a repetitive pattern. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm creating a series of elements for the pattern. And since this is my first try, technically second, but first real attempt at creating a pattern, I will be taking it really just slow, and there will be just 4 elements, so 4 bunnies, and then I also painted a variety of different little things at some point, and you will see them later on in the video, but I did not use them in the end. I might still in the future, but I will tell you about that in a little bit. So the idea for this pattern came from an encounter I had a few years ago. I was going to work on my scooter. I used to go to work through fields, like through the back roads, because it was safer. So I used to take my scooter through the fields. It was, I remember, a beautiful sunny day. The grass was really high, and in that grass there were 3 bunnies, rabbits. They were bigger. There were 3 rabbits that were chasing each other. They were just running in a straight line, one after the other, and they were in that straight line. They would just make different patterns and just zigzagging, and it looked like they were chasing each other in a line. So at this point I was just absolutely mesmerized. I haven't seen anything like this before. Now I am a city grown girl, so I don't have that much to do with animals. I didn't have that much to do with animals growing up. So for me it was just the most magical thing I have ever seen, just rabbits chasing each other in a line, one behind the other. Is like, this is just magic. What are they doing? Immediately I had tons of stories popping in my head, completely out of, just crazy ones. But I was really excited. Of course, eventually I found out that there was nothing magical about it. It's just that, when rabbits want to mate, they chase after each other. So yeah, but in the end, for me, this became this really magical thing because I haven't seen anything like this before and since, so, just let me live my dream. So the idea for this pattern came from that encounter. I've decided to paint 4 different bunnies, rabbits. They are rabbits. I keep thinking bunnies just because it's so cute, but they're supposed to be rabbits. So I wanted to have them in different poses that would indicate that they are running. I also wanted them to be very simple because like I've mentioned, this is really my second attempt at making a pattern. It's just first legit, second real, like in somewhere. Like I haven't really made a pattern before, so this was. I didn't want to make it overly complicated. Let's leave that for the starry sheep later on. So I wanted simple shapes. I knew that I wanted to have a background for these, and I knew that I wanted them to repeat. So I wanted to be able to cut them out. So as you can see here, they are very simple shapes, and they have a very precise outline. So I knew that I would be able to just cut them out without a problem and paste them in Photoshop wherever I wanted. So now I'm just painting it, and there is nothing tricky about the painting either. The trickiest part, and actually the most fun as well, was the way I was painting, because you can see me here switching between the paintings constantly. And that is my favorite way of ensuring that all of them looked exactly the same. I have 2 colors prepared on the side. They're the same mixture, and I'm using that same mixture on every single painting. So I will just paint, for example, a layer of brown on one bunny. I will put it aside, pick up another one, paint the same exact thing, put it aside, let it dry, and while they are drying, I will just keep painting. So this way, they are exactly the same. Every single step is exactly the same, and it is a very tedious job to record. So if you're getting confused watching this, I am really sorry, but I really wanted to show you. I was actually toying with the idea of combining them per bunny, but I felt like it would be just too much of a hassle because this is how I painted it. I literally just painted it in switching them one after the other per step. So here initially I wanted to have just a very, very flat background, so flat layers of color. But then I've decided, you know what, I want to have a little bit of like granulation. I have that really, really pretty granulating brown, and I felt like they were a little bit too flat. Now I knew I wanted to come in afterwards with colored pencils for the details. So, don't expect a lot of texture with the watercolor, but I wanted to get a little bit of that dark brown on the tips of everything. So you have a little bit of brown on the nose, ears, paws, and the tail. I thought it would add a little bit of interest. I don't know if that's just something that comes out from the Inktober, but I felt like it was just way too flat. Now I didn't want to make any dramatic shading. Yeah, dramatic shading, just because I didn't know exactly where I was going with that pattern, what I wanted to do with it. So I figured that I would just put on the colors I wanted to use, and if anything, if I needed them to be more contrasting, I could add a little bit of contrast in Photoshop. So here was the problem. The only problem I really encountered in the whole painting is because, as you can see, there's a line forming around the little upper leg. Now it's not a really problem, but I wanted them to be completely flat. So later on, you will not see this because I will be removing that line in Photoshop as well, just editing it out. I didn't realize that this brown was moving so much, like it was a lifting brown. Although now that I think about it, all my browns were like that, so I don't know what I was thinking. I was working too much with ink lately, and I feel like I'm rediscovering my watercolors again. Plus, there are new watercolors. So here, I've actually done only one bunny, I believe, with detail. But I'm coming in with colored pencils and enhancing the colors a little bit. I wanted to have the colored pencil texture on the bunnies. Oh yes, I'm doing all the outlines. It's very unusual for me to actually record videos so much earlier than recording the voiceover. I usually am done on the same day when I'm recording the voiceover, so that everything is still fresh. I remember, the steps I took and everything. So in this case, I've actually finished painting these bunnies 2 days before the voiceover, but because there's another whole part of creating the pattern that had to take place in Photoshop, so, it's just a little bit delayed. But I wanted to have, back to painting, okay? I wanted to have a little bit of that colored penciled texture, very, very delicate one. And I wanted to have a colored pencil outline. That's something I don't know, I like it lately. I don't like a very sharp outline. I didn't want to have, for example, a fine liner outline. Initially, I was playing with the idea of having an ink outline, but unfortunately, I don't have a permanent waterproof brown ink. I didn't want to buy one just for this project, so I switched to the idea of using a colored pencil for it, and I really, really liked it. I'm making it oh my god, I'm making it messy on purpose. I didn't want it to be very, very sharp. I want it to be a bit like a sketch. I'm still trying to figure out where I want to land with my style of painting. I keep switching because, of course, it always switches depending what you're into at that particular moment. Sometimes I feel like using a fine liner for outlines. Sometimes I feel like using watercolor for outlines. I think that's the biggest issue I have, like the biggest thing that changes. But in this case, I really want to create a little bit more messiness to my paintings. I don't know, lately I love to see messy in painting. I don't know where it comes from. Yes, and this is exactly what I meant when I said I will only make one bunny with detail, because adding those fur strokes, and I'm still not sure if it was a good decision or not. I try to believe it was, because I don't think they will be visible in the they're very delicate. I didn't add that much pressure, and I was layering them a lot, so they create a texture, but not exactly. You don't see the first strokes, which is what I initially wanted. But covering all bunnies with fur was so time-consuming. It was just ridiculously boring job. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to record this, but I was afraid that the process was taking too long. And I was also really, really bored with doing this, so I actually sat down in front of the monitor and watched something while doing this, and that made the time go a little bit faster, because I can do a lot of things, but repetitive stuff is just, I hate it. I hate doing those little tiny dots. Seriously, it's a little bit off topic, but I am so respectful of all the people who are doing, for example, stippling. Oh my god, there's just so much patience. So here you can see me putting stuff in Photoshop, and what I'm basically doing is I've scanned the files on my scanner on a very high resolution. Well, not very high, because of course my scanner goes only to 600, so that's how much I am scanning. But by doing that, I'm ensuring that I have some wiggle room with size. Because when you're scanning your paintings, they actually look really good, even if they're blown out, as long as they are scanned like that. So as long as you can see strokes, like the paintbrush strokes or pencil strokes, and they are sharp, I really like that. So I'm doing that actually a lot lately, where I'm scanning my paintings in a very high resolution, and so that you can really see the strokes. And I need a sip. I'm still recovering from a cold. I don't know about if that's common or not, if you guys have it. I'm so sorry if you do. If some of you do. But after a cold, I feel perfectly fine, but my throat is like a little bit as if it was allergic or something, and it's just raspy for a very long time. So here are the little details I've added. I wanted to create patterns for every season of the year. So you would have bunnies with flowers for spring. For summer. That was supposed to be summer. Bunnies with fresh green leaves for spring. Bunnies with snowflakes for winter. And bunnies with colored leaves for fall. But in the end, I did not use it because... Okay, I'll first explain here. So while I was cutting out the bunnies, I lost a lot of that messy outline. And so I came back here with one of the paint brushes from Kyle's Real Watercolor brushes. It has a little bit of texture, and I'm trying to be very messy with it, and I'm just outlining all the bunnies. And I showed only one because, once again, it took quite a while to do it. It was a very repetitive process to just outline everything, cut out everything. It takes time, and the video was getting very long. So here I am arranging the bunnies, and you can see me, I made a line first because I wanted the bunnies to run in opposite directions. So there would be one line running to the left, one line running to the right, so as if they are chasing each other. And but I'm not really creating a repetitive pattern because as you can see here, I'm coming back and I'm rearranging the bunny so they kind of like, they don't seem too repetitive. They don't, each of them is a little bit different. I tilt some of them, I move them a little bit up, just creating one mass of bunnies that seem like a pattern but are not. I am not a big fan of repetitive patterns. I don't know why. If I see that it is repetitive, it's just such a turn-off for me. I'm not really hating on them. It's just that it depends how they are made and from what. Because recently I saw this pusheen pattern and I was absolutely in love with it. So I can't really say that, you know, I completely hate them. But in this case, I didn't want to create just a repetitive pattern. So here I'm adding, I've added a dark green background because this was the original idea I had. They are running through the grass. And I've decided to add my, I love sparklies, I can't help it. So I've decided to add fireflies just to bring out that, just the green feeling. And as you can see here, I've started with white, but then I realized that no, I actually had to start with green and then come back with white to get that glow going. And I have to say that once I did that, it started to feel good because when I was putting in the white glowy bits, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Why is it so flat? And this kind of, I figured it out. So it is very hard to watch this because I jump a lot. Because once again, I'm not making the repetitive pattern. So I'm drawing in all those little details by hand. And what's happening here is that I have the navigation thingy, the little, the zoomed out version, let's put it this way. I have it opened and kind of like blown out a little bit so I can see where I haven't been yet. Because the little dots, they're much easier to draw when you are really zoomed in. But then again, I don't see what I'm doing overall, if it makes sense in the composition. So that's why it's really nice to have those two next to each other. And I don't have two monitors, unfortunately. So this is good for me. And I am absolutely in love with this pattern. I can't really explain how much I love it. I'm not showing it here, but eventually I've added another layer of green under the bunnies, kind of like a darker frame, just to add a little bit of contrast. And I really like contrast. I can't help it. I really love adding contrast, and it really tied everything together. The glow really popped. You can see it here really, really clearly. I am absolutely in love with this pattern. Of course, you know, I can't help it, but it's selfish self-promo. Self-promo is down below in the description. There's a link if you would like to see this pattern on the items on Redbubble. Please be my guest. I've also created another version. Like I've mentioned before, I wanted to create 4 of them, but it didn't turn out. I don't know why, I just didn't feel it. So I only created the second one, which is kind of like a winter inspired one. You know, it's been snowing here today, so probably that's why I don't really feel like flowers. I might revisit this for spring because I really like the idea of them running through, you know, a flower field. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this a little bit different video. We've been kind of thinking that I probably won't be keeping to a once a week schedule, just because, as you can see, it gets pushed. I have things to do, so some stuff gets pushed onto the back burner. So I will be starting another big project, so it will be a little bit tricky to make videos every week. But I'm hoping that I can at least make it like one painting, one talking, just something different, because I'm really enjoying making the videos and talking with you guys in the comments. So I wouldn't like to. I don't want to stop. Let's put it this way. So yeah, once again, I hope you've enjoyed this, this video. I definitely loved the pattern. I'm so happy making these. It's something completely different to big illustrations, but it makes me happy. So yeah, thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!